We talk about in culture a lot the midlife crisis, right? And it's often identified as this negative thing. Part of the thing we're doing is trying to reevaluate how we look at that and how we define it. And to look at it as like a midlife evolution or a midlife metamorphosis, if you like. Because I think it's really a chance to step into who you want to be in this second phase of life.
This is episode number 560 with Claire and James Davis. We're going to be talking about reclaiming your midlife mojo. And if you're anything like me, you know that life can begin again at midlife. It's really not the end, it's the beginning. And so I was really intrigued by this dynamic duo who are going to share with us about all the things that we can do to make midlife our best part of life. And I'm excited to talk to them. I want to welcome you back to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date. And to support you on your journey to lasting love, I wrote two books. The first one is called Becoming a Woman of Value, How to Thrive in Life and Love. And it's really a book about building your core confidence. It's about showing up, standing up, and speaking up in your life to have the best life you can have. And the second book is called Choice Points in Dating. I published this book in February of this year, 2023, actually, Valentine's Day, good release day. And it's a book about empowering women to make healthier choices at each stage of dating and relationship. We often feel we are not at choice. We are born this way. We have had terrible relationship history. Our parents were crazy. And I just want you to know that you have many, many choices, and your choices are really based on who you are at your core so that you can have your own inner GPS. And I talk all about it in the book. You can find them both on Amazon for Kindle or paperback. And every week I share a tip from the Woman of Value book. And this one is, if you want something, ask for it. How often do we not ask for what we want and we wonder why we're not getting it? So I just want to encourage my listeners that if you are wanting something, it's vulnerable to ask for it. But if you don't ask, you won't receive. And so go and ask for something this week. Before I bring Claire and James on, I want to just invite you, if you're not yet a member of my Facebook group, Your Last First Date, join us there. If you're a woman over 40 and you want a supportive place to go to where you will get real feedback from me, a dating coach who's been doing this work for 15 years, plus my amazing 7 monitors who write inspirational posts every single day. This is a very active and positive group. Join us there at Your Last First Date. And now for my guests, Claire and James Davis. They are a husband and wife team, and they have a multi-award winning coaching and fitness company called 38 Degrees North, and also a coaching company called the Midlife Mentors. They host a midlife health podcast, the Midlife Mentors, and their passion is helping people in midlife achieve not only the body, but the lifestyle that they deserve. They have backgrounds in psychology, coaching, hormones, nutrition, NLP, and they empower individuals with the tools and knowledge that they need to make positive changes in their lives. They also contribute regularly to media, including the New York Times, the Sunday Times, the Observer, the Mail, National Geographic Traveller, Conde Nast Traveller, and many more. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having us here, Sandy. What an introduction.
What an introduction. Thank you so much. I was just grinning then. I was like, that's lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Let's start with your own story of midlife love. Tell us what happened.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? We talk about in culture a lot the midlife crisis, right? And it's often identified as this quite negative thing where we throw out. But actually, part of the thing we're doing is trying to reevaluate how we look at that and how we define it, and to look at it as like a midlife evolution or a midlife metamorphosis, if you like, because I think it's really a chance to step into who you want to be in this second phase of life. By the time we hit midlife, we've often given so much up. We've made a load of sacrifices for other people, maybe partners, maybe children, maybe career, and suddenly we realize that perhaps that's not aligned with our values or who we are, and we get to go again. Which is my long preamble into, I guess, our story and how we met. Was in my 40s, my marriage actually broke down. My wife just out of the blue decided to up and leave me. which was really devastating at the time, kind of left me on the floor and my confidence shot. And then Claire walked into my life.
I was already in your life.
You were already in my life. We did know each other. But the funny thing is, Claire's marriage had broken down at exactly the same time as mine. I have to explain this to listeners. I was living in Ibiza, which is a little island in the Mediterranean, and Claire was living in the UK. But she used to come backwards and forwards to see mutual friends. So we didn't actually know that each other's marriages had broken down for about 3 or 4 months until after it happened. And then Claire came over, and I expressed my interest in dating her. She said no way, but I persevered.
You did persevere.
And it kind of went from there. So yeah, our story is kind of about divorce, which is like really common in midlife, and then I guess you kind of have, in psychological terms, you have that fall, right? When you leave a relationship, often you can feel quite damaged by that. You're picking yourself back up again. You're doing the work until you feel ready to re-enter the arena. And we were just lucky that we found each other when we did that. So it's a kind of, we reconnected in midlife.
And I think it is so common that you've had, like James alluded to there, you've had a number of knocks by the time, for most of us, by the time we get to our midlife, and then a relationship breaks down as well. And you think, my goodness, I'm just on the dump heap. It might be that you've been in that relationship for years and years and years. You've not known anything else, or you've just had a series of a catalogue of disasters like I had. So, when I came to the relationship with James, what we say a lot to our clients, and when we talk about our relationship, you think you might have done a lot of work on yourself, and then you get into a relationship and then you realize that you have a whole nother layer of work that you need to do, because you have this third entity, which is called a relationship. So it's you, the other person, the third entity is a relationship, and you've got to nurture that as well as being able to nurture yourself. So yeah, that's our background story, a little bit of it anyway. It got a lot more complicated than that, but
well, I think it's an amazing thing. First of all, I do think it's very relatable in that so many people do get divorced and they're devastated. They don't know how to start over. They think they're damaged goods. I see so many people who come to me for coaching who are just all about self-blame. What did I do wrong? Why did I get rejected if they were the one who was left? And they really feel beaten down. And so it can be hard to start over. But I love what you said, James, about the fact that we've already done a lot of things that felt like sacrifices. I think we can get very caught up in a marriage with giving up parts of ourselves to make a marriage work when it wasn't working. And so whether it's making sacrifices for children, which is natural, but making sacrifices in a spousal relationship is not a good thing. It's good to compromise, but not to sacrifice. And I think a lot of what happens in midlife is we say, okay, I don't want to give those things up again. And I'm rediscovering who I am at my core. And it sounds like you met each other at the right time, but it wasn't always simple. And so I'm curious also, how did you know each other before? Because you were not living anywhere near each other. What was that story?
So that story is, I had mutual friends over in Ibiza where James was living. And at that time, I was a coach. So I was doing stress management. I was a stress management consultant. I was doing coaching for Microsoft. I was kind of dipping my toes into the coaching world. And Ibiza is a place where a lot of people run wellness retreats and health retreats. So I was going over there and delivering workshops for some of the retreats. And one of my friends said, oh, let's pop into this gym that's part of this 5-star hotel. And so I popped in, and James was behind the desk, and his blue eyes just popped out at me. And I thought, oh, wow, he's gorgeous. But I was actually just about to get married. So I thought, Claire, that's not the sort of thing you need to be thinking about. So that's actually when we first met. And so through mutual friends. And then obviously we would bump into each other whenever I was going backwards and forwards to Ibiza.
Interesting. So you were about to get married, but you're also still attracted to other men.
Well, I think that should have told me something. There were many. I'm not going to lie. There were many alarm bells, and that should have been that was one of them.
So how long was your marriage?
Oh, only a couple of years, not even a couple of years.
Yeah.
And again, it's funny how we make, you saying sacrifices, it resonates with me so much because again, if we've had, it's the blame game, right? Why aren't I lovable? Why aren't I able to find the right person that really sees me and really celebrates who I am? So then what happens is, actually going into another relationship, we might make sacrifices about who that person is that then come to fore when it really, really matters. And I think I shoulda, woulda, we can always say about shoulds, but I think with hindsight, I was making sacrifices because I felt like I was unlovable. I felt like there was something wrong with me because I'd had so many bad relationships before. So that's what you said about sacrifices really, really, really resonated with me.
I think that what people don't realize is the reason why we make these choices. And it often starts with our family of origin, and we are recreating those relationships, trying to get the love we never got from a certain parent, or the recognition, the validation. And so we keep picking what my friend Ken Page calls attractions of deprivation instead of attractions of inspiration. I love those terms because,
love that.
right? It's just so it's so clear that we're always looking for what that person can't give us, and then we're like banging our head against a wall and saying, what's wrong with me? What if I said this in this way and did this in this way and maybe changed who I am and morphed into a pretzel, and in hopes that somehow this person will be responsive and notice me and see me and hear me. And it's a totally endless cycle of self-abuse, which we can really change with the right inner work.
Absolutely. It is all about that inner work. And I think when I said about James and I meeting, it was really interesting because I don't know whether you agree with this, but you can do a lot of inner work, and it's essential that you do. You have to do that inner work. But then there's this another level, another unfolding, another peeling away of the onion when you actually get into that relationship, because you're learning so much about yourself in relation to that person all over again.
Yes, for sure. So we're talking about reclaiming your midlife mojo. And I would love to hear both of your own personal experience of what that looked like.
Well, I guess for me, I was just actually sitting there quite reflecting on that. So one thing I think was lucky in my favor, I've always been into my exercise and my fitness. So when I was separated, I kind of threw myself into that. And I realize now it was because it was like, well, the rest of my life was chaos. This was like a part that I had control of. So it's having that control mechanism. I think actually that probably saved me from going down potentially an even darker road, because I had that perceived level of control that our subconscious loves through exercising and working my body. I also had awareness enough to realize when I was overdoing it and overcompensating with it. So that's why I was lucky, because I know a lot of people and a lot of clients we work with, when they split, often the first thing to go will be the physical health, right? They're like, I just can't no one wants me. I feel rejected. Like, what's the point in keeping myself in shape? I'm just going to sit on the couch and order some delivery in and all the rest of it. So I'd say I totally understand that mindset 100%. But like, if you can just take those small steps to do something to move and start nourishing your body better, you'll start to feel better. We often ignore this mind-body connection. So I think that's the first thing. Take the physical steps so you actually feel good in the only home you have, which is your body. And then for me, I had all the tools at my disposal. Like, I was coaching people on this stuff, but trying to apply them to yourself when you're in a state of distress is really, really hard. So I think I had to go through my grieving and kind of meltdown period first, and then start to reassemble and go, actually, you know what, James, you know this stuff. Let's start working on it. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help in certain directions. I had my own kind of coaches. I went on a couple of retreats. Things really helped sort out myself. Because I think when you come out of a long-term relationship, you can feel a bit lost. Because we were saying earlier, you can make a lot of compromises in a relationship. You get very comfortable. So when it ends, you're like, well, actually, who am I now? And more importantly, what do I actually want from life? What do I want going forward? So it's about taking the time, I think, to rediscover that. Be honest enough about, maybe where you did get stuff wrong, and have you got things you want to work on yourself so you can be better next time around, but better for yourself as well. And then don't be afraid to ask for help, because this stuff is really hard to figure out on your own. It's particularly hard when you're, in a really like down state because your relationship's packed up. So yeah, ask for help, get out there, and yeah, just start doing the mind and body work together. Because when you do those two things together, that's when the magic happens.
And for me, I hadn't ever had kind of fitness in my life. So when I went through my divorce, I just went into that slippery sliding slope that James mentioned. I was eating really badly. I was drinking too much alcohol. I piled on the pounds. I was put on antidepressants. I felt myself just completely spiral out of control. And I think for me, I was very blessed that I thought the thing that really shook me up was actually being put on antidepressants, weirdly enough. And I thought, I don't want to be on these for the rest of my life. I need to find a way to help myself physically and mentally that doesn't involve pharmaceuticals. That was just something in my head. I was like, I really want to sort this out myself. So after a period of grieving and going into a really big hole, I decided to start studying nutrition, like how to nourish myself. I started exercising. I started seeing and feeling an improvement in my emotional state, my sleep. Like everything started to jot into place. And I already had all the coaching skills from everything I'd already done. So NLP, coaching, but like James said, you might have those skills, but you can't do them on yourself. So I really dived into a lot of spiritual practices, dived into retreats, dived into having therapies. And that, like James said, that mind-body connection it changed my life. The physical side, actually, of having a routine and starting to feel stronger and respect my body, because I had really disrespected my body for a long time, not just that period. I'd had borderline eating disorders. I didn't have a good relationship with food. And I was like, I've got to sort this out. I don't want the rest of my life to look like this. So once I discovered that and discovered how empowered I felt with all of those things, I was like, I have to go out there in the world and support other people to do exactly the same.
So you're both talking about the mind-body connection so much. And I totally agree. Your body is so important. I think that people don't realize not just how important it is to nourish your body, but that our body also holds our feelings. It holds our stress. It holds so much that we think we're fine, no problem. And now our shoulders are hunched over. We have we're clenching our fists and gritting our teeth. I remember when I was in my 20s, I used to really grit my teeth. And it was so bad that I had TMJ, temporomandibular joint syndrome. I couldn't open my mouth past like a half an inch. And I went to the dentist and he said, oh, well, we're going to fit you for a little brace to wear at night, but you're getting married, so you won't have any stress anymore. It's just like, what?
Wow.
That was an interesting comment, but not true. And I think, I had no consciousness of why I was so stressed out, or the fact that my husband wasn't a good match for me, and all the things that we become aware of as hopefully we get older and we have more knowledge. But I love that you're bringing out the mind-body connection, because both are important. We have to really take care of this amazing body that we were given, and also our mind. And I'm also an NLP practitioner, so I love the work. I think that just there's so much available out there that just changes your life. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. You can listen to over 70 million songs and thousands of playlists and stations. Plus, you can now stream your favorite podcasts like Last First Date Radio. You can listen to any song, anytime, anywhere, on any of your devices. Get Amazon Music Unlimited for free for 30 days. Just head on over to getamazonmusic.com/lastfirstdate to learn more and claim this offer. Let's talk about working together as a couple. I actually worked with my husband. It was the best part of our relationship. But for many people, it can destroy the relationship. So how do you do it? You also travel. I mean, that's being together 24/7. What's your secret?
I love this question because we get asked it so frequently. And the truth is, it was an absolute nightmare at the beginning. So we got together and I left my whole life in England to go and move to Ibiza to work in James's business. So for me, as a really I fought a lot for my independence. So for me to make that decision and leave a flat that I'd really fought hard to purchase myself, and then leaving my new career in fitness and nutrition and everything, going over to work in his business, it was a real battle of egos, actually, and I had to experience a lot of ego deaths, is all I can describe it as. Lots of little ego deaths of, not actually necessarily being as financially independent as I had been. But these were all choices that I made. So I had to keep reminding myself that these are choices I've made. And I think that James and I it was actually an unconscious pact with each other that this was it, actually. We'd both given up so much to be with each other against a lot of odds, against a lot of people not wanting us to be together for various reasons. And there were a lot of odds stacked against us. And so there was that commitment to just work through what we needed to work through. And we could both see very, very quickly that we had the same values, the same vision, not just for ourselves, but the world, actually, like the mark that we wanted and the legacy we wanted to make on the world. And we thought, hang on a minute, we can do that together. But it was really rocky at the beginning because our ways of working are incredibly different. If you look into star signs, I'm a Virgo. I love attaching it to this because it's so true. Whether you believe in star signs or not, this element is very, very true. I'm a Virgo, so I'm very picky, I'm really perfectionist. Everything has to be just so and thought out. James, on the other hand, is a Sagittarius and fires off a million arrows, doesn't think about any of them particularly, and then so many of them hit. He's amazing. Like, he's absolutely amazing at creating all these opportunities, but then the Virgo in me has to go around gathering them up and making them happen. So it's been a massive journey. There is a real level of respect, is all I can say. Like, a real level of respect between us.
That's what I was going to actually echo. I think, obviously when you first come together, it is about learning about each other and when you're working together, learning each other's working styles and strengths and weaknesses, but actually learning to respect those. And I think that's part of the respect you have to put into a relationship. Claire said the relationship is a third entity, and people sometimes forget that. They're just like, oh, we're together and that's it. But the relationship is like a living, breathing thing on its own. You have to look after it, feed it, nurture it. And part of that is having respect for each other and knowing what works, what doesn't, and flexing around that. And for working together, my top tip would be, remember that you might be workmates, but you're also, partners and lovers. So, we have our date nights. We're very clear on when the working day finishes, we'll be like, okay, that's it. We're switching off. So it's about, if you're doing that on your together, it's really challenging not to let that seep into all aspects of your life. So we're really careful to protect, I guess, the more intimate parts of our life away from our work part.
I just want to add one other thing, actually, because I do think this is really important. And this comes up a lot when we get asked about this. So again, there can be quite an ego thing in it as well. It's kind of like, if you're an ambitious person, you're with another ambitious person. Sometimes there can be that kind of proving energy actually, like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm better at this than you are. And it just, because as human beings, we have that competitive edge sometimes, and it kind of can start coming out in your working relationship with your partner. And that's something that we had to, I certainly had to work through. I know James had to work through as well. And this kind of where we're at now, it's very important that you lift each other up. So there's no battle. You're in this together. You both bring your amazing qualities to the table, and we should love and respect those different qualities and lift that person up. Because in lifting that person up, I get lifted. In seeing James grow and expand into this amazing human being, I get the benefit of that, and I level up too.
I love that. I love so many things about what you're saying, because I like that you talk about that it was a disaster at first, because I think that makes you human. I mean, I think that when you bring two people together who have already had a lifetime of experiences and a way of being in the world, and now you're trying to be together and figure out the relational part of your lives, you really have to, it's like a business. You have the mission statement, which is your vision and your goals, and you feed everything through that lens. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. They just see there's me, there's you, and oh, we're in a relationship, but we each want our own way. And it's very hard to put the ego aside. It's really, really hard. I know that in my working with my ex-husband, he's a comedian and a puppeteer, and we had a television show together on Nickelodeon, and I was going to say Netflix, but it didn't exist at the time. But it was similar in the skill set, where he was this highly creative, kind of all over the place. He could work on something for 100 years, and I would wonder, where's it going? Because I was all like, let's find the purpose in this, and let's be efficient. But I'm also a creative. I'm a creative artist, and I helped him with writing and with directing and editing, because I also was concise and he didn't know how to focus on the smaller picture. So yeah, it's such an interesting dynamic. My issue was I was also running the family and running my art business and helping him. And so when he wanted my support, he would just go, I need you to write now. I need you to come upstairs and write with me now. And I'd be like, you got to schedule this, because I want to feel respected in this relationship. And so I'm happy to help you, but I don't just drop everything the minute you call me. That's not who I am. So it took a while for us to get to that point. But I think, I wanted to support him. I loved his work. I thought also, like, it was genius. I mean, what we created together was amazing. So I can relate to a lot of that. And I think, we were missing other parts, obviously, because we really couldn't make our relationship work. But I think if people can envision the triangle of, the different points of us, and one point is you, one point is me, and one point is the relationship, and always to remember that the relationship is an entity in and of itself, and who we become when we're together is different from who we are in other relationships.
Actually, I think it's also really important that you have that time apart. We haven't said that, actually, yes, time together, going out on dates, but going out and doing your own thing, and going and experiencing life for yourself in your own way. Because again, at the beginning of our relationship, it was almost like we were a bit scared to do that. And I know that might sound odd, but I'd always been super independent. James had as well. But then somehow when we got together, there was this fear or something that I still haven't quite unraveled around not going out and doing our own thing and expanding our consciousness with a retreat or a business mentor or just anything, or even with friends. But we do that all the time now. And that's a real blessing. And James actually, because it was more James that didn't need that space on his own. I did. I really need my own space. James didn't so much. But now, when I go away and come back, he was like, oh, that was just lovely. That was just, I really enjoyed you being away. And I'm like, yay, that's great. That's good that you enjoyed me being away, because you're your own person.
Yeah, we definitely need space away from people for us to appreciate each other also, and to have your own life outside of the relationship. I think really important. I'm glad that you brought that in too. So if people want to reclaim their mojo, how can they get started?
Well, I think it starts with actually not rushing into a relationship. Like, I think this is a mistake I see a lot of people doing. It's like, whether it's to try and like bolster that self-esteem again, so like I'm still attracted to someone, so I'll just rush out there, or that kind of fear of being, alone. So I see many people rush in. I'd say if you've come out of a relationship, take that time, take that breathing space to actually think about who am I now coming out the other side of that, and who do I want to be going forward. And then that will inform you as to what you should be doing to get your midlife mojo back. Right. I think the first step comes with like know thyself, and then like more importantly, start to love yourself. Be like, okay, who do I want to be? Who do I want to? How do I want to show up in the world? So what steps am I going to take to do that? And then you'll find like you will find the right person. It's an energetic thing, right? If you spent the time to do that and to connect back in with yourself, because often in a relationship we'll lose part of the connection with ourselves, then we can go back into it. I mean, and that comes back to what we were saying earlier. It's about making sure that you are staying fit and healthy. We know there's a really strong mind-gut connection. So, nourishing yourself with the right foods, moving your body, doing that introspective work as well. So getting up, remembering to be grateful every morning, getting that gratitude flowing around your body, all those things to help you reconnect with yourself and fall back in love with yourself with one eye on like, yeah, who am I going to be going forward? And I think when you do that, you're going to show up as a much more powerful and attractive person than, being the desperado that's rushing into the bar at happy hour to be like, I'm here. Who can I grab?
It's so true what you just said. I think it's about creating routines for yourself as well. I think there's, the subconscious mind loves certainty, even though the most certain thing is there is no certainty in life. Our subconscious mind loves that level of certainty. So I think being able to create some, and I'm not a massive fan of this phrase, but self-care routines that do build that momentum into, like James said, loving yourself, having self-respect, so that when you do go into, or not go into, like when that you attract, when you receive that next relationship that is meant for you. Because there is, I truly believe, if you're in that energetic space, that person will be attracted to you, the right one will be attracted to you. But first of all, we have to make sure that as much as possible we are in that space. And it's not always going to be, you're not always going to be able to be like, oh, I love myself. But as much as we possibly can, ready to receive the right person.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, they jump in too early, or they wait too long. They can wait really long time because they're not ready. And so they protect themselves by hanging out with their children or their friends and getting more pets and doing things that feel safe. And then it becomes even harder to jump back in. But I think it's so important to do that inner work, because you definitely attract who you are, and I think that people don't realize that energy is so palpable. You feel somebody's presence. And so when you're in a good space, and I remember when I started doing this inner work, and right as my divorce was happening, I met up with somebody for the first time, a woman who I had really respected and admired and put her on a pedestal because she was somebody I wanted to be like. And so when I met her, I was like nervous, and we had tea together. And then I ended up joining her coaching program, and she took a look at me and she said, "You're glowing. Like, what happened?" And I said, "I've been working with this amazing coach." And she goes, "I want whatever you're having. Give me her name." And it was just like, it totally flipped the switch on our relationship, because here I was at this very insecure place, meeting her and then feeling more alive and confident in just a short period of time. And so this work is just so, so powerful.
Absolutely. Love that story.
So as we come to a close, what are your final words of advice for anyone who wants to go on their last first date? especially in midlife?
It's kind of what we've been saying, to be quite honest with you. It would be to, as much as you can, be powerfully owning your own space, powerfully owning your place on this planet, if that makes sense. It's kind of like not going into this dating space feeling like someone is feeling a hole within you, like filling something that you're missing. So as much as you can, fill yourself up, fill your cup up, fill your energy up as much as you possibly can. Own who you are, own your space. And when you go on that last date, that, like you said, that's what's going to come through. It's like, if this is my last date, great. If that happens, that's going to be amazing. And trusting the universe, actually trusting that the energy that you are putting out is going to like attracts like. So that like energy is going to be attracted to you. And you know what? If it's not, that's not your person. And just going, I'm just in my space. I'm owning my space. I know who I am. I am powerful. I am strong. That's all I need to know. And I need to just trust. So that's what I would say.
I was going to say that. I was going to say it like, date yourself first and learn to fall back in love with yourself. And once you've done that, then go on your first date.
I used to have a course where the first step was date yourself first.
Oh, wow.
It's so important. And people like, what would that look like for people who have no idea what we're talking about?
So it's about spending that time, like we referred to earlier. I think it's so easy, especially in the modern world, right? We're in such a rush for everything, and even everything around us. We live in a world of excess. Relationships are kind of like, I'm going to put in inverted commas here, easy. Food's easy. You can order stuff on an app. You can find a partner on an app. And we consume it. There's no real investment in it anymore. It's too easy. So it's about taking that step back from that world and investing that time in yourself and getting to know yourself and realize your qualities and realizing the areas you want to work on for yourself before you go back out there, and going back out there very kind of consciously about the energy you're projecting from having done that work.
And I would say, making sure that you understand why some of your patterns of behavior have been happening. So do some healing work, reach out, get support, have some therapy. We all need that. We all need to unpick some of our behaviors and our belief systems. So do that. Get a routine, a self-care routine in place. I'm going to say, don't eat lots of junk food. Don't drink lots of alcohol all the time. Don't, be very, very aware of what is going to add stress to your life, because all of those things are actually going to make dealing with what you're going through a lot harder if you've just come out of a divorce. But if you're going into that first date, it would be to go in there, with that self-care routine, knowing who you are, understanding why things have happened in your life, and being kind to yourself and compassionate with yourself, and loving yourself as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, such good advice. And you really are both a great example of midlife rebirth, midlife excitement, midlife starting over. And really, it's very inspirational to see the relationship that you both have developed with a lot of intention and consciousness and care and nourishment and love. So I know that you have a free gift. Can you share what that is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a midlife health and happiness quiz for all of your listeners. So we will drop a link wherever we need to drop the link, but it's a link and you'll go through the quiz and you'll find out where you are on the scale of midlife health and happiness. But the amazing thing is, however you answer, you'll come out with your own personalized report that will give you an understanding of where your strengths are, but also where you could improve some of the areas in your life to become even more happy, even more healthy, and start to really, really thrive in this second act of your life. So that quiz is available to your listeners.
Thank you so much. That sounds wonderful. I mean, to really get an assessment about where you are so that you can work on the parts that need some help. And give us a link to your website where people can find you.
So we are simply themidlifementors.com. So that's, mentors with an S on the end, the midlifementors.com. And you can find us there and links to everything else that we do. So,
Okay, and all the links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much, Claire and James, for coming on the show today, for sharing your story, your struggles and your triumphs, and really the steps that you took so that people can see that there is actually a way to rebuild your life, to really have the life you want. It's never too late. And I thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much for having us on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, everybody, for listening today. If you love our show, please give us a high rating and review on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate that. And as always, here's to your last first date. If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application.